Welled in fear, Nostradamus's 10 predictions for 2025 are coming true. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Malcolm X. For centuries, humanity has searched for meaning in the stars, in scriptures, and in the cryptic words of prophets. Among them, Nostradamus stands out, not just as a man of science and intellect, but as a mysterious visionary whose writings have stirred both fear and fascination. His prophecies, often poetic and puzzling, have predicted revolutions, disasters, and turning points in human history. Now, as the world stands on the edge of uncertainty, many believe his visions are coming true. Specifically in the year 2025, the current turmoil gripping America under Donald Trump's aggressive tariff policies has amplified global tensions to a dangerous boiling point. Countries previously bound by cooperation now drift apart, alliances fracture, and economic wars threaten to escalate into something far more severe. Recently, we've witnessed Canada dramatically pivot toward the European Union, a strategic shift away from its long-time partnership with the United States. Even more troubling is Germany's unprecedented decision to abandon a massive $9 billion agreement with America, instead choosing alignment with Europe. These are not merely trade negotiations. They are clear signs of deeper cracks in the very foundations of international diplomacy and stability. In this video, the Journey of Wisdom explores 10 chilling predictions of Nostradamus that eerily align with our present situation. Could Nostradamus have foreseen these events centuries ago? Could the economic warfare sparked by tariff disputes trigger a broader, catastrophic conflict? Whether you believe in prophecy or not, the stark reality remains. We are entering uncharted territory. What you are about to discover might shake your sense of security and change the way you view the immediate future. Pay close attention. Our world's stability may depend on understanding these warnings before it's too late. Number 1. The rise of a world leader. Nostradamus, the enigmatic seer of the 16th century, wrote in veiled quatrains that have both fascinated and unsettled generations. Among his many prophecies, one continues to capture global attention. His prediction of the rise of a powerful world leader, often described as the great man from the north. As we edge closer to 2025, this forecast has taken on new weight, especially as geopolitical tensions rise and political divides deepen across the globe. In a time when the world grapples with uncertainty, change, and increasing polarization, this prophecy seems less like ancient folklore and more like a mirror reflecting modern times. The image of a leader emerging from the north with a magnetic command and the ability to restructure the global power dynamic raises both hope and fear. In his writings, Nostradamus does not label this figure as either savior or tyrant, only that their influence will be far-reaching and transformative, stirring both renewal and destruction. This leaves us with questions. Who will this leader be? What values will they bring? And how will their leadership shape the world we live in? As elections loom in major nations and global trust in leadership diminishes, some political figures already exhibit traits that resemble Nostradamus's great leader. Strong-willed, often controversial, and deeply polarizing. These individuals inspire fierce loyalty from some and deep anxiety in others. The prophecy does not provide names or countries, but the symbolic North could point to influential powers in the upper hemisphere, nations with long-standing global influence, or leaders who are just now rising in prominence. As public discourse grows more fragmented, People yearn for certainty, for direction, and this makes the soil fertile for a commanding presence to step forward. But leadership without compassion can be dangerous. This is where a timeless reminder from the Buddha becomes especially relevant. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. Whether a leader brings healing or harm depends not on their strength alone, but on the intention behind their actions. In today's world, where information travels faster than thought and opinions clash louder than reason, it's crucial that we don't get swept up in fear-based thinking. Nostradamus's prophecies, while hauntingly prescient at times, should not be interpreted as guarantees of doom, but as reflections of recurring human patterns. Every generation faces its crossroads. What matters is how we respond. Will we demand wisdom and integrity from those who rise to power, or will we settle for spectacle and division? The ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "To lead people, walk behind them." True leadership isn't about domination, it's about service, guidance, and sacrifice. If a new leader is indeed rising, we must hope they emerge not as a conqueror, but as someone who unites, who understands the weight of responsibility, and who prioritizes the well-being of humanity over power. From a Buddhist lens, this prophecy invites us to look inward as much as outward. Fear of the unknown often arises when we feel powerless, but the teachings remind us that peace begins within. While world leaders may come and go, our inner stability must be cultivated through mindfulness, compassion, and clarity. We must be cautious not to place all our hopes or fears onto a single figure, but instead nurture a collective consciousness that values wisdom over noise, unity over division. As we navigate the unfolding future, let's remember the words of Thich Nhat Hanh. The most important thing is to find peace and to share it with others. Whether this new leader ushers in conflict or calm, our response will shape the world more than any one individual ever could. And so, as Nostradamus's first prophecy for 2025, the rise of a world leader, looms large in the minds of many, it calls us to reflect not only on what is happening on the world stage, but also on what is unfolding in our own hearts. Fear may tempt us to cling to power or resist change, but wisdom invites us to observe, to stay grounded, and to choose compassion again and again and again. Leaders rise from the collective will of the people. If we choose balance, empathy, and awareness, perhaps the great man from the north will not be an agent of destruction, but a reminder of what is possible when strength is tempered with humility. The future is not set in stone. It is shaped by our choices today. Number 2. Global natural disasters. Among all the predictions made by Nostradamus, one stands out with a chilling urgency: the warning of a wave of global natural disasters in 2025. It's not just about strange weather. His words hint at earthquakes, floods, and storms so powerful they might overwhelm anything we've ever experienced before. He wrote of an earth in turmoil, suggesting that we may be standing on the edge of an environmental crisis unlike any we've faced. Now, whether you believe in prophecies or not, there's something unsettling about how closely this prediction mirrors what we're already seeing in today's world. Scientists and environmental experts have been raising the alarm for years. Our planet is changing, and not for the better. Rising temperatures, more frequent wildfires, violent storms, and melting ice caps are no longer just headlines. they're our reality. Could it be that what Nostradamus saw hundreds of years ago is now unfolding right before our eyes? He described scenes of fire in the sky, which many today interpret as massive wildfires made worse by heat waves and drought. When he mentioned overflowing rivers, it brings to mind the floods devastating cities and farmlands due to unpredictable, intense rainfall. Some of his other symbolic language, like the earth shaking, has sparked debate. Could this point to an increase in earthquakes? We know that human activities such as mining, drilling and fracking can cause shifts in the Earth's crust. Perhaps his visions weren't just metaphors, but early warnings of the consequences of disrupting nature's balance. Scholars who have studied his writings for decades often note how eerily they reflect our current climate crisis. Nostradamus may not have used modern words like climate change or global warming, but his messages resonate with today's most pressing environmental concerns. What if these disasters aren't just random acts of nature, but reflections of the choices we've made? What if they're warnings, chances to pause, reflect, and shift direction before it's too late? You don't need to believe in prophecy to see the urgency in that. Whether it's coastal cities bracing for rising sea levels or rural areas facing drought and crop failure, every part of the world is feeling the pressure. The big question is, what are we doing about it? Are we listening to these signs or continuing on a path that only leads to greater destruction? Yes, there are skeptics who argue that Nostradamus's words are too vague to mean anything specific, and that's fair. His verses are often open to many interpretations. But maybe that's the point. Maybe his prophecies weren't meant to predict exact events, but to awaken our awareness, to stir us into thinking more deeply about how we live, what we value, and what kind of world we want to leave behind. His writings offer not just fear, but a mirror, and in that mirror, we see both danger and opportunity. So what can we take from this? First, that the earth is speaking to us, through storms, fires, floods, and more. And second, that we still have time to act if we choose to. The lesson here is clear. Our actions matter. Whether or not you believe in Nostradamus, the state of our environment calls for compassion, mindfulness, and a strong commitment to doing what's right, not just for ourselves, but for the generations yet to come. The future isn't written in stone, it's shaped by what we do today. Are we listening? Are we willing to change? That's the question each of us must answer. Number 3. Social revolution. Let's take a closer look at prediction number 3, social revolutions, a prophecy from Nostradamus that feels more relevant now than ever before. As you listen, I invite you to reflect. What does real change look like to you? And where do you see it starting? According to Nostradamus, 2025 won't just be a year of minor shifts. It could be a turning point in human history, marked by widespread social revolutions. He writes of a fire in the heart of cities, a powerful metaphor that many have interpreted as a symbol of unrest, of people rising up against deep injustice. This isn't just poetic language. It's a mirror held up to our current world, where inequality continues to grow and dissatisfaction simmers just beneath the surface. You might already feel it around you. The growing gap between rich and poor, frustrations about race, gender, and class, or the way decisions made far above our heads seem to leave so many behind. The fire could be protests, riots, civil disobedience, or something deeper. A fire of awareness, awakening, and action that starts inside each of us. Throughout history, When people have felt silenced or dismissed, change has come from below. Revolutions don't always wear uniforms or carry banners. Sometimes they begin with a single voice asking, "Is this right?" And that voice becomes a chorus. From Paris to Hong Kong, from the streets of Tehran to online movements sparked in living rooms, the pattern is clear. People are no longer waiting for permission to demand justice. Nostradamus' words suggest not only physical confrontation, but also a radical shift in consciousness, a challenge to old systems of power. Some scholars interpret his new power as the digital revolution, social media, live streams, and grassroots journalism that now empower ordinary people to expose corruption and rally others in real time. Think of how the Arab Spring was born, or how movements like Me Too or Black Lives Matter reshaped conversations across the globe. Doesn't it make you wonder how many revolutions are already happening, quietly, just behind your screen? Still, we have to ask ourselves, is prophecy meant to scare us or guide us? Buddhist wisdom teaches us that all conditioned things are impermanent. Even the systems we think will last forever can fall apart, especially when they are not built on compassion, fairness, and truth. Social revolutions, then, can be painful, but they are also part of transformation. Just like the lotus grows from the mud, society may have to go through dark times to emerge wiser and more just. But what kind of world are we trying to build from the ashes, and what part do you play in it? It's also important to approach Nostradamus with a clear mind. Yes, his language is mysterious and open to many interpretations. Critics argue that his verses are so vague they could be twisted to fit any moment in history. And yet, isn't that what makes them powerful? Like a Zen koan, his prophecies are not answers, but mirrors. They reflect the world back to us, asking us to think deeply. Are we heading toward collapse or rebirth? Will the fire destroy, or will it purify? As we step into 2025, these questions aren't just for scholars or politicians. They're for you, for all of us. In your everyday actions, in how you treat others, in the things you stand up for or stay silent about, you're shaping the future. As the Dhammapada says, with our thoughts we make the world. So if a revolution is coming, maybe it starts not only in the streets, but also in the mind. What will your revolution look like? If you've made it this far, you're already opening your eyes to the mysteries unfolding in our world. Comment below with "Fearless Future" to show you're ready to face what's coming with awareness and courage. Don't go anywhere. There's still more to uncover about Nostradamus' chilling predictions for 2025. Stay until the end to see how these prophecies may impact your life and what you can do to prepare. Number 4. Extreme climate changes. Nostradamus, in his cryptic quatrains, painted a chilling picture of furious winds, raging seas, and fire in the sky. Words that even centuries later seem eerily aligned with the chaotic climate events unfolding before our eyes. As we approach 2025, these ancient warnings feel less like distant prophecies and more like vivid reflections of our modern reality. Today, we're witnessing storms that seem more violent than ever, floods that swallow entire neighborhoods, heat waves that stretch on for weeks, and wildfires that turn skies red and force thousands from their homes. The climate crisis isn't just coming, it's here and it's intensifying. While climate change has been discussed for decades, the severity and frequency of these disasters are no longer anomalies, They're becoming our new normal. Scientists, year after year, release reports that echo the same message. The window to act is closing, and nature's warnings are growing louder. What's deeply unsettling is how precisely Nostradamus' words resonate with these scientific findings. The furious winds he mentioned seem to mirror the massive hurricanes and typhoons battering coastal cities, leaving behind trails of destruction. Raging seas could very well point to the rising ocean levels and storm surges that threaten island nations and seaside towns. And fire in the sky, a haunting phrase, brings to mind the wildfires that have scorched millions of acres in the US, Australia and Europe, clouding skies with ash and blotting out the sun. These aren't just poetic images. They describe the lived experiences of millions of people around the world. And if we take this prophecy seriously, 2025 might not be the beginning, but rather a breaking point. A year that forces humanity to reckon with the damage we've done. But there's another layer to this prophecy that deserves attention. The darkened skies Nostradamus hinted at. While some may interpret this as metaphor or symbolism, it chillingly reflects real-world phenomena like air pollution, smog, and what scientists call global dimming, where sunlight is partially blocked due to particles in the atmosphere from burning fossil fuels. This isn't a future concern. It's something we're already living with. In some parts of the world, children grow up never having seen a truly blue sky, and this too impacts our climate, altering rainfall patterns, affecting agriculture, and even suppressing sunlight that would otherwise help warm parts of the earth. Everything is connected, and the prophecy, when looked at through a modern lens, feels less like fantasy and more like foresight. For men aged 30 to 65, often fathers, providers, protectors, and leaders in their families. This moment in time is a call to responsibility, not fear. The extreme climate changes we're experiencing aren't just about statistics or news headlines. They affect the food we eat, the homes we live in, the health of our children, and the stability of our communities. Whether you're a business owner worried about supply chains, a farmer watching the weather shift unpredictably, or simply a man concerned for the future of your family, this is the moment to become more conscious and more active. We can't afford to sit back and hope it gets better. The decisions we make now, from how we use energy to how we vote and what we teach our children, will shape the world they inherit. It's important not to get lost in panic or helplessness. Nostradamus' predictions were never meant to be absolute. They were warnings, reminders that the future isn't set in stone. Human beings have the power to adapt, to act, and to change course. There are technologies, innovations, and movements around the world focused on building a more sustainable future. But change always begins on a personal level. Start by becoming more mindful of your own impact. Reduce waste, support renewable energy, use your voice to demand accountability, and teach the next generation to care for the earth as if their lives depended on it. Because they do. And when things feel overwhelming, remember that even small acts of responsibility and awareness, when done by many, become a powerful force of transformation. As we reflect on Nostradamus' prophecy, we must understand that it isn't just a prediction of doom, but a mirror showing us where we stand and what path lies ahead. If 2025 marks a turning point, let it be the year we begin to turn toward wisdom, unity, and healing. We can prepare for storms by strengthening our homes, but we must also prepare our hearts with clarity, compassion, and courage. After all, the earth is not just a resource. it's our shared home, and protecting it is not only a matter of survival, but an act of deep respect and love for life itself. Number 5. Large-scale military conflicts. In a world increasingly overshadowed by uncertainty, the chilling forecasts of Nostradamus have resurfaced with eerie relevance. Among his cryptic quatrains lies a vision of 2025, marked by large-scale military conflict, a prophecy that many believe is beginning to manifest. He speaks of fire and blood in the sky, a phrase widely interpreted as a forewarning of devastating aerial warfare, jets, missiles, bombings, reflecting the catastrophic potential of modern conflict. This imagery, though poetic, strikes an alarmingly realistic chord when viewed in light of rising geopolitical tensions. As military budgets swell and diplomacy grows brittle, experts are drawing connections between Nostradamus's visions and the strained relationships among the world's most powerful nations. Territorial disputes, ideological rifts, and arms races now form a volatile backdrop where even a small spark could ignite a devastating confrontation. The notion of great eagles facing each other is often understood as a veiled reference to the United States, China, and Russia, superpowers locked in a tense dance of diplomacy and deterrence. Their relations, once cautiously cooperative, now appear increasingly antagonistic, underscoring the idea that global conflict might not be a distant nightmare, but a looming reality. This prophecy becomes even more ominous when we consider the escalating situation in the Asia-Pacific region, particularly involving China. The quatrains may well allude to naval confrontations and the display of might in places like the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait. China's assertiveness, marked by frequent military drills and expanding maritime presence, adds weight to the theory that a significant power shift is underway. A red adversary, turning pale with fear, another phrase in Nostradamus's writings, has been interpreted by some as symbolic of China or another rising force whose challenge to the existing world order might lead to open warfare. This scenario is no longer confined to theoretical debate. It's the subject of strategic analysis and military planning across NATO countries and beyond. As the balance of power teeters, the words of Napoleon Bonaparte ring true. History is the version of past events that people have decided to agree upon. And yet, Nostradamus's account suggests that history may be repeating itself. Only this time, the scale and consequences could be unimaginably severe. Adding to the gravity is the terrifying possibility of nuclear escalation. Fire in the sky is not just poetic. It could well point to the haunting glow of nuclear detonations, a vision that conjures memories of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, yet speaks to a future where destruction is no longer limited to one region but threatens the entire globe. Some interpretations of Nostradamus's timeline suggest that another great war may follow 79 years after the end of World War II, placing us perilously close to that prediction. The precision of that number has given rise to chilling speculation, particularly in light of current events and strategic alliances that mirror the lead-up to previous world wars. As Winston Churchill once said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." The echoes of past conflicts now seem to resonate through every international standoff and military build-up, forming a chorus of warning we would do well to heed. Beyond physical conflict, these prophecies touch on moral and spiritual decay. Biblical teachings align with this trajectory of unrest. The Apostle Paul's warning that, in later times, some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits, mirrors the confusion and division we see today, not just politically, but ideologically and spiritually. The last days are said to be marked by chaos, where truth is discarded and deception thrives. It's not difficult to draw parallels with our own time, where misinformation spreads rapidly, institutions are questioned, and people grapple with a sense of disillusionment. The warnings of both Nostradamus and Scripture do not simply point to external war, but to an internal struggle within humanity itself. As the world becomes more divided, it is not just armies that face off, but values, beliefs, and the very meaning of truth. While many are quick to declare these signs as the arrival of the end times, it's crucial to understand that prophecy serves not as a guarantee, but as a guide. Jesus himself acknowledged the inevitability of conflict before his return, saying, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom," Matthew 24:7. The book of Revelation echoes this, with its description of the horsemen of war, symbolizing a time when peace is removed from the earth. Yet nowhere does Scripture state that only 2 world wars can occur, only that a final one will. This leaves the door open to the possibility that what lies ahead may not yet be the end, but a precursor, a testing ground that challenges the very soul of humanity. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace, Jimi Hendrix once said. But until that shift occurs, the potential for conflict remains dangerously high. Ultimately, the message in both Nostradamus's prophecies and sacred texts is not one of doom for doom's sake, but a call to awareness, a reminder that choices matter and that peace is not a passive state, but a conscious pursuit. The specter of a third world war should not paralyze us with fear, but awaken us to the urgent need for empathy, diplomacy, and collective wisdom. Whether or not 2025 fulfills these prophecies, the rising tension in global affairs serves as a wake-up call, a chance to steer away from the brink. For in the end, it is not prophecy that determines the future, but people. The story of tomorrow is still being written, and perhaps if we listen closely to the warnings of the past, we can still choose a path that leads not to ruin, but to renewal. Number 6. The coming of the Antichrist. In the pages of Nostradamus's mysterious quatrains lies a chilling prophecy that continues to echo through time. A prediction that a third and final Antichrist will emerge, pushing the world closer to a time of great conflict and darkness. The first 2 Antichrists, often thought to be Napoleon and Hitler, marked eras of immense suffering and global unrest. But according to these ancient verses, the most dangerous one has yet to fully reveal himself. This final figure, shrouded in secrecy, is said to wield an almost supernatural influence. Someone charismatic, persuasive, and intelligent enough to gain the trust of the masses while hiding sinister motives. Some people believe this Antichrist will be a powerful leader, maybe a political or social figure already among us, silently preparing to step forward. Names like Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or King Charles have been thrown around in speculation, but the truth is, no one knows for certain. What makes this prediction even more unsettling is that it doesn't point to a single place or person. It points to a spirit, a force of deception that can emerge from anywhere. Could it be that this Antichrist is not just one individual, but a reflection of something deeper happening in our world right now? What if it's a sign of the ongoing conflict between truth and lies, love and hate, light and darkness? Some scholars and spiritual teachers believe that the spirit of the Antichrist works through people who, while once guided by moral or even religious values, slowly become tools of manipulation and control. This spirit doesn't always come with horns and fire. It hides behind charm, popularity, and influence. It can show up in anyone who chooses to distort truth, spread fear, or lead others away from compassion and unity. It's a reminder that the greatest danger might not come from outside of us, but from the choices we make every day, how we treat others, what we believe, and who we allow to influence us. Scripture adds another layer of meaning to these prophecies. In John 2:18, it warns, "Little children, it is the last hour. And as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come." This suggests that the concept of an Antichrist isn't limited to one terrifying ruler in the future. Instead, it may refer to many people across time who stand in opposition to truth, peace, and love. So when we look around at the confusion, the rising fear, and the global unrest we see today, it's natural to wonder, is the third Antichrist already among us? Not as a person, but as a wave of influence, a mindset, a shift in the world's moral compass. And here lies the most important question for us to consider. In a world where the lines between truth and lies are blurred, how do we stay grounded? How do we protect our hearts from fear and manipulation? One way is by remembering that these prophecies, while alarming, are also a call for awareness, not panic. They invite us to look inward, to recognize the signs of deception not just in the world, but in ourselves. They remind us that spiritual battles aren't always fought with weapons, but with choices, with honesty, courage, and compassion. So what can we take away from Nostradamus's warnings and the scriptural echoes that accompany them? First, the idea of an Antichrist, whether a person or a spirit, urges us to be vigilant, not afraid. Second, it teaches us that influence is powerful. The wrong voice, followed blindly, can lead entire generations astray. And finally, it reminds us that the most important war is not waged in the outer world, but in the human heart. Will we be led by fear or by love? Will we seek truth or follow the loudest voice? The choice is always ours. And perhaps that's the real message hidden in these ancient words. You're not watching this by accident. You're meant to see these signs. If you're ready to awaken to the truth behind Nostradamus's visions, comment "Eyes Open 2025" below. There's more to come, and the next predictions may change the way you see the world. Stay with us until the end. You won't want to miss what's next. Number 7. Revelation of Ancient Secrets. Let me take you on a journey into one of the most intriguing predictions from Nostradamus for the year 2025, what he called the revelation of ancient secrets. According to his cryptic quatrains, truths buried for centuries may finally come to light, shaking the foundations of what we think we know about our history, our origins, and perhaps even our purpose. This isn't just about dusty scrolls or forgotten temples. It's about the possibility that something hidden, intentionally or otherwise, could completely shift our collective understanding of humanity. Can you imagine what it would mean if ancient knowledge deliberately kept from us for political or religious control was suddenly unveiled? What would it do to the way we live our lives, or how we see ourselves in the universe? It makes you wonder, how much of history is real, and how much has been rewritten by those in power? With the help of modern technology like ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, and advanced preservation methods, the likelihood of unearthing hidden manuscripts or mysterious artifacts has never been greater. Archaeologists are now able to explore places that were once inaccessible, and with every new dig or scan, we edge closer to answers that have eluded us for centuries. Some scholars believe we might find scrolls or documents that present completely different views of ancient civilizations, ones that could challenge long-standing religious narratives or scientific timelines. Others suggest we could discover advanced tools or knowledge systems far beyond what we believed those cultures were capable of. Could these discoveries help solve present-day problems, or even offer spiritual insights that bring us closer to inner peace? But this prophecy is not just about the past. It's also about us right now. It invites you and me to ask, are we ready to face truths that may be uncomfortable? Do we have the wisdom and compassion to integrate these revelations without fear, without clinging to what's familiar? When ancient knowledge surfaces, it doesn't just rewrite textbooks, it rewrites our relationship with the world and with each other. In a time when misinformation spreads easily and belief systems are deeply divided, how do we stay grounded? How do we approach new knowledge with both curiosity and humility? Perhaps the answer lies in the middle way. Being open, but not gullible. Being skeptical, but not closed off. As we move through 2025, the stage seems set for remarkable discoveries. Whether these secrets come from ancient libraries beneath forgotten ruins, or from within ourselves as we awaken to deeper truths, one thing is certain: we are all part of this unfolding mystery. Will you meet it with fear, or with the courage to learn, unlearn, and grow? Number 8. The rise of artificial intelligence. As we move through uncertain times, the cryptic imagery in Nostradamus' verse of a lone sage gazing upon the moon, detached yet deeply aware, while others call to him with burning devotion, has been interpreted by many as a symbolic warning of artificial intelligence rising to prominence. In this picture, the sage could represent the quiet wisdom of humanity, watching from a distance as something vast and unfamiliar begins to unfold. The disciples, passionate and determined, may reflect the modern world's race toward AI, driven by ambition, obsession, and the promise of control or immortality through technology. Today, we're already witnessing this transformation. AI systems that can think, learn, mimic emotion, and even surpass human abilities in certain fields are becoming a regular part of our lives. From powerful language models to autonomous machines, the lines between man and machine are beginning to blur. It's no longer science fiction, it's reality. But as with all great change, there is both potential and peril. Artificial intelligence can improve lives, helping doctors diagnose faster, helping businesses operate more efficiently, and even aiding in humanitarian efforts. Yet it also brings risks: job displacement, deepfake misinformation, surveillance, and the temptation to replace human judgment with code. The fervor described in the verse might well symbolize how society, governments, and corporations are pouring vast resources into developing AI without fully understanding the consequences. This is where we as individuals, especially men who carry the weight of responsibility in families, businesses, and communities, must pause and reflect. Wisdom isn't in chasing the latest invention blindly, but in understanding its impact, asking the deeper questions, and using it in a way that serves the greater good. In our daily lives, AI is already present in the way our phones predict our words, in how ads are shown to us, in the decisions banks and employers make. The moon in the prophecy may also remind us of the need to stay calm and observant, to not lose ourselves in the heat of technological obsession. As fathers, leaders, workers and thinkers, we must ensure that technology enhances our humanity instead of replacing it. We must remain the sage, grounded, aware, and not swayed by the crowd's rush toward what looks like progress, but might carry unseen consequences. The future with AI doesn't have to be one of fear, but it does demand that we walk carefully, with wisdom, not just innovation. Let us keep learning, questioning and guiding this rise, not from a place of panic, but from a place of mindful responsibility. Number 9. The End Times and the Middle Eastern Antichrist. In 1555, Nostradamus wrote a series of prophetic verses that have fascinated and unnerved readers for generations. Among these writings, his references to the year 2025 stand out as particularly chilling, painting a picture of a world teetering on the edge of collapse. He foresaw a time of global chaos, marked by violent conflicts, political instability, and humanitarian crises that stretch across continents. But while war and power struggles dominate the surface of these predictions, what stands out more powerfully is the role of nature itself. As if the earth, exhausted by the weight of human recklessness, would begin to push back. Nostradamus warned of worsening climate conditions, writing, "The dry earth will become drier, and suddenly a great flood will come." These words seem eerily relevant now as we witness rising global temperatures, uncontrollable forest fires, devastating floods, and extreme droughts, all becoming part of our daily headline. The climate crisis is no longer a distant theory. It's unfolding right before our eyes, and many have started to feel the quiet panic of a world that seems increasingly out of balance. When we reflect on ancient prophecies through a modern lens, it's hard to ignore how closely they mirror our current reality. While the Bible doesn't directly address climate change, it does speak of a time when the world will be consumed by fire. In 2 Peter 3, verse 10, we read, "The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare." For some, this aligns with the scientific warnings about global warming and the deteriorating health of our planet. Others see it as a spiritual metaphor, reminding us that everything in this world is temporary, and that no matter how advanced we become, we're still vulnerable to forces beyond our control. This raises an important question. How much effort should we put into saving a world that, according to prophecy, is destined to be replaced? It's tempting to shrug and wait for something better, but perhaps the deeper message here is about responsibility, about how we live in the time we've been given. Even if the earth is to be renewed one day, does that excuse us from the duty to care for it today? This thread of responsibility ties into the more ominous elements of Nostradamus's vision, particularly the prophecy of a Middle Eastern Antichrist. Among his most alarming predictions is the emergence of a powerful, shadowy figure from the Middle East, one who will rise to dominance during times of unrest and bring devastation in his wake. This Antichrist, described not just as a political leader but as a figure of profound darkness, is said to ignite conflict and suffering on a global scale. While interpretations of this figure vary, some seeing it as literal, others viewing it symbolically, what remains consistent is the underlying message. In times of fear and division, dangerous leaders rise. This idea feels especially relevant in a world where misinformation spreads rapidly, leaders are polarized, and the public often finds itself confused and divided. Whether the Antichrist is one person or a representation of a deeper darkness in society, the warning is the same. When people are disconnected, fearful, and desperate, they become vulnerable to manipulation and control. As we look at today's geopolitical tensions, especially in the Middle East, it's not hard to see why many draw parallels with Nostradamus' writings. Conflicts continue to erupt, alliances shift, and populations suffer. In his cryptic verse from Century 4, Quatrain 50, Nostradamus even refers to a massive earthquake in the month of May, a disaster that some interpret as a trigger for larger events, including the rise of the Antichrist. Could this be metaphorical? Could it represent a collapse not just of land, but of stability, peace, or morality? Whether we take it literally or not, the image evokes a deep sense of fragility, reminding us that even the ground beneath our feet can suddenly become unstable. And yet, while these predictions may be grim, they aren't just meant to scare us. Warnings, after all, only serve their purpose if we take them seriously and use them to guide our actions. We may not be able to prevent every disaster, but we can control how we respond. We can choose compassion over cruelty, awareness over ignorance, and unity over division. Nostradamus didn't predict these things to paralyze us. He offered a mirror, showing us where we might be headed if we fail to learn from our past and stay asleep to the present. The rise of a dark leader, the wrath of nature, the breakdown of societies. These aren't just events. They're symptoms of a world losing its balance. And when we look inward, when we prioritize kindness, truth, and shared humanity, we become the antidote to that darkness. So, as we consider these ancient words, written centuries ago but echoing through the events of today, let them not be just tales of doom and fear. Let them be wake-up calls. For men navigating the complex world between ages 30 and 65, often juggling responsibilities, careers, families, and quiet moments of doubt, this is a time to reflect on what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. You are the decision makers, the protectors, the guides. In your everyday choices, how you treat others, what you teach your children, how you interact with the world, you shape the future. The predictions may be old, but the wisdom they call for is timeless. Stay alert, stay grounded, and above all, stay compassionate. In a world that sometimes seems to spin faster than we can handle, our greatest strength may be found in how calmly and wisely we choose to stand. Number 10. Religious and spiritual decay. Nostradamus, along with echoes from ancient prophecies found in the Bible, warned of a time when humanity would drift away from spiritual truth and become entangled in deception, false teachings, and the erosion of core moral values. As we move deeper into the complexities of modern life, many are beginning to wonder if we're living through exactly what was foretold. The signs are subtle but present. Churches losing influence, traditions once held sacred now questioned or discarded, and a growing divide between people's inner values and the fast-paced material world around them. Today, the idea of right and wrong is often blurred by convenience, opinion, and profit, leading many down a path of spiritual emptiness masked by superficial success. We see influences replacing spiritual leaders and trends overpowering timeless truths. This isn't just about religion in the formal sense. It's about the fading of a shared moral compass, the weakening of discipline, compassion, and mindfulness. And while it may seem that the good is losing ground, both ancient scripture and the deeper teachings of wise traditions remind us that light does not vanish, it only gets overshadowed. Goodness, though quiet and often uncelebrated, never truly disappears. This moment in time, as uncomfortable as it may be, can also serve as a powerful wake-up call. Men, especially those in the heart of life, between the ages of 30 and 65, stand at a crossroad. You have lived enough to see how the world has changed, and perhaps you feel the weight of responsibilities pulling you in many directions. But this is also your time to become an anchor, not just for yourself, but for your family, your community, and the younger generation watching you. You don't need to become a preacher or monk, but you can live by example, with honesty, integrity, and awareness. Reclaim time for stillness. Question not just what you're chasing, but why. Are your actions aligned with your deeper values? If the world is in decay, then let your daily choices be an act of quiet rebellion against it. Teach your children not just how to succeed, but how to care. In the face of confusion, be the steady one who listens, reflects, and chooses compassion over chaos. These ancient warnings aren't here to scare us, they are reminders. In every age, there is a chance to return to what matters. And in these turbulent times, the call to rise with wisdom, calm, and conscience has never been clearer. As we look at Nostradamus's predictions, one thing becomes clear. They are not simply messages of doom, but mirrors reflecting the state of our world and of ourselves. Whether these prophecies unfold exactly as written or not, they invite us to pay closer attention to how we live, how we lead, and how we care for one another. 2025 may bring challenges, but it also brings a choice: to face the unknown with fear or with wisdom. At the Journey of Wisdom, we believe in choosing mindfulness, compassion, and clarity over chaos. If this video gave you something to reflect on, we invite you to support our journey by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos as we continue exploring the deeper meanings behind ancient teachings, modern challenges, and timeless wisdom. Until next time, stay grounded, stay aware, and walk your path with courage.